everybody. My name is Gilda Ross. I'm the Glenbard Student and Community Projects Coordinator. Delighted that you could join us for this GPS Parent Series presentation tonight. We are all about sharing wisdom, inspiration, and about connecting with families. And we thank you for the gift of your time tonight. It is a very busy time of year. Tomorrow, our students are off of school for Institute Day, but you are here, and many of our staff are going to get to hear Dr. Desautels tomorrow, her presentation, her all-day presentation tomorrow. So I'm really excited. It's just a little snapshot for those parents who are excited about learning about behind their eyes, what is the behavior that is driving some of the challenges that we have with young people. Should be a very important conversation, interesting conversation. I'm glad you're here. We welcome you to please share. This will be on the Glenbard Parent YouTube channel, along with many of the other past programs. So feel free to take a look. And once again, please share the resource. GPS is for families who live next door to you and across the country. Everyone is welcome. We're very grateful to all of our partners who make this possible. One of those partners is the Regional Office of Education, and I'm really glad that Dr. Trotter is here representing the regional office. She'll be doing the introductions. Quickly, before we begin, I want to mention what is coming up in the next couple of weeks. Next Wednesday, we are going to be welcoming for the first time Donna Jackson Nakasawa. Her book is called Girls on the Brink, and she'll be talking about boys and girls on the brink. But this particular book that she's written is called Helping Kids Thrive in an Area of Increased Anxiety, Depression, and Social Media. That is Wednesday at noon and at 7 p.m. There is a watch party if you want to come in person and be a part of a conversation that's going to be led by some of the psychology professors at the College DuPage. Join us at 11:30 at the Culinary Arts Building on the campus of the College of DuPage. The following week, we'll be talking about social skills. Ty Tashuro has a book called Awkward, the science of why we're socially awkward and why that's awesome. So we'll be discussing skill building. That will be on the 13th at noon and at 7 p.m. And then we'll be talking about motivational interviewing. The book it's called The School of Hard Talks, and it's by Emily Klein. It will be presented on the 19th at noon and at 7 p.m. Motivational interviewing for better conversations and stronger relationships. In April, we will kick off our final end of the year programming. Lynn Lyons will be with us. She'll be talking about her book, The Anxiety Audit, Understanding Social Anxiety and the Complexity of Teen Relationships, April 4th, noon and 7 p.m. Lots to circle your calendar about, lots to share. And let's get started. I'm so looking forward to tonight. Vicki is the Assistant Regional Superintendent for the DuPage Regional Office of Education, and Dr. Trotter will do the introductions. Take it away, please.
Thank you. Dr. Lori Desautels has been an assistant professor at Butler University since 2016, where she teaches in the College of Education. While an assistant professor at Marian University in Indianapolis, she founded the Educational Neuroscience Symposium, which has now reached thousands of educators and is in its 15th year. The Applied Educational Neuroscience Certification, created by Lori in 2016, is designed to meet the needs of educators, counselors, clinicians, and administrators who work beside children and adolescents who have and are experiencing adversity and trauma. The certification is now global and has reached hundreds of educators. Lori's articles have been published in numerous international publications. She continues her work co-teaching in the K-12 schools, integrating her applied research into classroom procedures and transitions while preparing the nervous system for learning. Her third book, Connections Over Compliance, Rewiring Our Perceptions of Discipline, was released in late 2020. And Intentional Neuroplasticity, Moving Our Nervous Systems and Educational System Toward Post-Traumatic Growth, her fourth book, will be released in January of 2023. Her new book manual, titled Body and Brain Brilliance, a manual to cultivate awareness and practices for our nervous system, will be published in 2024. Lori has met with well over 200 school districts across the country in Canada, Costa Rica, Australia, Scotland, England, and Dubai, equating to more than 150,000 educators worldwide. And we are delighted to welcome her to GPS tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much. I am excited to share this hour or less than an hour with you, but I want to follow up with you. You'll have the video recording, and you'll also, I'm going to be sending the slides, and I did not tell Gilda that, but that's something that I did in Chicago last night. So you will have the slides, and because we want you to share this with your community. This is how we plant seeds. This is how we begin with awareness. So with that, I am going to share my PowerPoint right now, and we will stop at about 10 till so that you can ask questions. And again, no worries if you don't have any. It's sometimes we just need time to reflect. So I'm going to put on my mama hat tonight, and as an educator, but more significantly as a caregiver, as a guardian, as a mama, as a dad, as a grandma, as an aunt, as a neighbor, any of us who sit beside our children and youth. This is the work. We are talking about a framework, applied educational neuroscience. It is not a program. There is not a script. There is not an algorithm. It is about us personally as much as it is our children. And that is fabulous. And I can tell you that as a young mom of Andrew and Sarah and Reagan, I wish I had known this when they were little. But I am still parenting them today as young adults. So we're going to begin with the 4 pillars that are really leaning and nurturing and blending into each other that support this framework. And the very first one, let's use this. It's the parent nervous system tonight. And I wish I had known this. Behavior management is about me. It's not about my children. That sounds maybe odd, but it is my nervous system that has the ability to steady and ground everyone around me, or I can unintentionally escalate the entire room. And I'm telling you, as a mom, as a teacher, I have done both more often. I've escalated more often, probably, than I have shared my calm. Co-regulation is at the heart of this work. We are social creatures. We're communal creatures. Attachment drives development of the nervous system. I mean, think about what that means. Attachment carries development. So, and we talk about this in Eyes Are Never Quiet. You know, it's our biological priority. And when I can share for just a moment or two my safe, emotionally nervous system with my child, my adolescent, my colleague, my partner who needs to borrow a little of my calm, it is what enables us to access the regions of the brain where we think, where we problem solve, where we can be creative, where we emotionally regulate, where we have good, strong attention. Those are called executive functions. And this is what I wake up and I go to bed thinking about and doing every day. Touch points are micro moments of connection. It is non-verbal more than it is verbal. Your face as a parent, your tone of voice, the way you gesture and the way you posture says it all. Our words carry very little meaning. So when you think about routines in your home, when you think about transitions, when you think about hard times, challenges, our nonverbal shares the story of our nervous system states. And this is, I tell our students, and my children, adult children, know this. They're probably tired of hearing it, but you know, we really share who we are through our physiological state. Really shares who we are through that tone and gesture, posture, and our face. And then the fourth tree, if you can see, the leaves are changing. And this is intentional because we've been talking about behaviors as parents and as educators for decades and decades, a century or more than a century. And we're missing the mark. And I'm going to talk about that tonight. So I'm going to say, this is my mama hat tonight. And this is my family. And I can tell you, I am a different mom today. I am the way that I interact, the way that I approach conflict, the way that I sit beside each of my children, my husband, Michael, and our brand new grandson, Miles. It's a whole new world. And I feel you're going to have a spark of that this evening. I get a do-over because this is our grandson, Miles, our very first. And even though he lives far from me right now, we're trying to make frequent visits, but I'm watching his development and with eyes that I never had as a young mom. And there are no regrets, but I'm just grateful for the new learning. So my lab at Butler University is my classroom. And I want to say to all of you tonight that I would have nothing to say to you as an educator, as to a parent, if I weren't in the classroom. About 12 years ago, I asked to go back to the classroom when I was at Marian University in Indianapolis because I felt I had lost touch. I'm a former special education teacher. I'm a former school counselor. And I worked as a school liaison in the adolescent psychiatric unit at Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis. And we're taking the research and weaving it into practices every single day in our classrooms. Crystal Williams up at the top is a middle school teacher, and I have been in middle school for the past 2.5 years. It was during COVID or the year after, and I'm just so grateful to have been a part of the classroom culture during that time. So everything I'm going to be sharing with you tonight are the practices that we're integrating with early childhood, with middle school, with high school, and with parents across the globe and educators. Lori Kirkland at the bottom is another rock star teacher. I was in her 3rd grade classroom, and I'm just so grateful because this is the work. It's not always pretty. And as parents, we're constantly rupturing with our kids, but that's okay too, because it's the repair that matters the most. So let's begin with some of the new research. We talk sometimes about brain-based learning, or we talk about, the brain, but really we're missing it when we don't talk about our bodies. And when I say the body, I am talking about how our brains and bodies are always communicating with each other. And what's interesting is that when something happens to us, when there is trauma in our lives, when we go through difficult, challenging times, and believe me, everybody on this call or who is going to listen to the recording, all of us, Gilda, me, Dr. Trotter, all of us have had trauma. You can't be living in this world without experiencing adversity and trauma, but it lands in the body. And you know this because when you think about when something has been hard for your child, hard for your adolescent, hard on you, you get a migraine, you have stomach issues, your heart beats fast, you can feel your hands sweat, you shake or you shiver. Our body really holds on to those adversities. So we're talking tonight about the neuroeducation of our nervous systems, and our students, our children, our adolescents love to know this. I have heard so many kids say to me, Dr. Lori, you mean I'm not a bad kid? You mean there's nothing wrong with me? Because we've pathologized behaviors for so long, and we label kids ADD, ADHD, emotionally disturbed, behavior disordered, other health impaired. We talk about depression, we talk about social anxiety, and I'm not negating those classifications, but underneath those is a nervous system that is trying to find its way home. And that is hopeful. You know, our nervous systems are constantly talking to us. So in every moment, we are shaping each other's nervous system. And I think that's amazing. The way I look at my child, the way I kiss them goodnight, the way I show up at show up at school or show up at a sporting event, or, my tone. I mean, we're constantly shaping each other's nervous system. So the brain develops from the very back to the front and from the inside out. And Donna Jackson is actually a colleague of mine. You'll be hearing her. I was excited to see she came to our Butler classes last year, and she'll talk about this too. But it's really interesting because the brainstem is all about, that it's all about survival. And if something happens to our brainstem, we don't live, but it's about safety. So when you think about when we're functioning from the brainstem, we're sometimes feeling overwhelmed. Increases our heart rate. We can't get a deep breath. And so as the brain develops, that brainstem, then as we move into, and if you make two ovals with your hands, they look like almonds. And I'm being very schematic. If I have any neuroscientists or physicians tonight, please forgive me, because the brain doesn't work in regions, or it doesn't work in sections. But for us tonight to understand, in the limbic system, in each temporal lobe, there are two almond-shaped structures called the amygdala. And this amygdala is our smoke detector. It's our fire alarm. And when it's firing, and our kids know this, my 4-year-olds know this, when the amygdala is firing, this part of the brain right behind our eyebrows is the prefrontal cortex. It's the last part of the brain to develop. And when we are feeling anxious, angry, overwhelmed, worried, this part does not get a good oxygenated glucose blood flow. It goes offline. It shuts down. And this is why I'm in schools across the world, because we keep pushing academics, we keep pushing testing. We don't understand that if we don't feel safe in our environments and we don't feel felt, we don't learn, period. As a parent, if you don't feel safe in your home, if you don't feel connected and you don't feel a sense of belonging, you don't parent well. And it's true for us as educators. I'm not going to teach well. I'm not going to lead well if I am, just in a profession, in my organization. I'm not going to do well if I don't feel emotionally safe and connected. These are not warm, fuzzy extras. These are circuits in the brain that create, when they're integrated well and organized, then they create a portal to this prefrontal cortex. And this doesn't finish developing until mid to late 20s, maybe even 30s, because development is extremely chaotic. It's just like children walk at different months, they talk at different months, they get teeth at different times. We're so big on my daughter, Sarah, she's just like, oh, Mom, he's not walked. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's okay. His first tooth came in at 10 months. It's okay. And that's development. So anyway, this is critical. Think about the culture of the school where your child or adolescent attends. Think about the culture of your home, and can we be authentic? Can we say what we need to say? Can we ask for what we need? All of us. In a way where we know that if there is rupture, which there always will be, that we can repair and stay connected through the conflict. So I want to say to every parent this evening, and I say this to myself, that the word regulation and co-regulation have become very buzzy and trendy. And I want to say that it's not about always being regulated as a parent. I want you to leave tonight and take a long, deep breath and know that if you have the awareness of your nervous system state, that's enough. If you are aware that you can't get a breath, if you are aware that you are so overwhelmed that you shouldn't be having this conversation right now, that you need to go splash your face with cold, cold water, you need to grab a mint, a piece of gum, you need to take a 5 or 10 minute walk, all these practices I just mentioned, activate the parasympathetic pathway of the nervous system, which lowers our heart rate, lowers our respiration and our blood pressure. So I want to talk a little bit about our identity when we come out of the womb. And this is fascinating research. In utero, all of us, so think about your own nervous system as a parent, guardian, caregiver, and we experience the sounds, the vibrations, the movements, and the rhythms of our mothers. And we're continually in the womb being co-regulated. And at birth, we're connected to our bodies. But isn't it interesting, especially, and I'm generalizing, but especially in the Western part of the world, our culture unintentionally splits us off from our bodies. And it's like our heads go one way and our bodies go the other way. And we lose touch with our identity. Our identity as we come into the world is our wetness, our coldness, our warmth, our regulation. Stay with me if you are the parent of an adolescent. This means everything. Because the language of the nervous system is sensation. Those are physicalized feelings. But when you lose touch with that, then you disconnect from your body. And it can be called emotional numbing. And so this is something that we are reintroducing and integrating into the practices into our schools. How cool is it that my 5-year-old knows that, I'm feeling teary. I have a lump in my throat. My tummy hurts. I need to take some deep breaths, or I need to go talk to someone I trust, or I need to chew on some ice, or I'm drinking ice water tonight with a straw, because a straw, when you drink this, slows it down and provides an oral muscular input to those lower brain regions. So let me explain this a little bit to you this evening. Trauma happens on a continuum. I don't want to pathologize it. Some of us go through extremely horrific, terrifying trauma, big T traumas, but trauma can also be an accumulation of unpredictable experiences. It can be neglect. It can be a sense of abandonment, loneliness. It can be like as a child, getting a new brother or sister, or a fall, or a surgery, or it can be right now in our adolescent years, social media is such a trauma for so many of our kids when they don't get a like, or they don't get the post doesn't have the reaction they wanted. And Donna Jackson will talk about that. It's fascinating. But adversity and trauma are body overwhelm. It's when sensory information is coming in too much, too fast, too soon, maybe too little, too late, or for too long, and it changes our physiology. It lands in the body, not just the brain. So this is oversimplified, but I want you to think about this tonight. Many times when we see behaviors that we call negative, oppositional, defiant, disrespectful, manipulative, apathetic, we have all kinds of labels as parents and as teachers. But this is a nervous system that is in a survival state. And if we look under the behavior, we are going to get to the root of what's happening. And it's really a process. So the brainstem is always asking, am I safe? The limbic system, where the amygdala, I talked about the amygdala, that is our emotional area. And it's always scanning the environment to see if I am connected, if I feel a sense of belonging, if I'm loved. And then this prefrontal cortex, if I feel safe and if I feel connected and felt, then when this is activated, the question is, what can I learn? What can I learn? I'm able to process. I'm able to create a pause if I need to, or I'm able to pay attention and have good, strong working memory. ACEs are adverse childhood experiences. And all of us have ACEs. We might have one, we might have two, we might have four. Also, there's a significant correlation to the number of ACEs in our lives and to our mental, emotional, and physiological health outcomes. So our own traumas as parents, as guardians, as grandparents might have started 3 or 4 generations ago. Maybe when your mother was pregnant with you, she was a single parent. She was working 3 jobs, or she was going through depression. So we have to understand that, our trauma and adversity can happen in the womb. And also the communities in which we live, we don't live in vacuums. So if we've grown up in poverty or discrimination, community violence, food insecurity, housing insecurity, those impact the way the DNA functions, not the sequence, but the way our DNA functions. And so some of the genes are turned down, some are turned up, but this impacts our emotional, mental, and physiological health. So behaviors are only a signal. That's it. They're only an indicator that the nervous system is trying to tell us what it needs. And that's a good thing. So I want you to think about this tonight, and I share this with educators too. I, as a mom, as a caregiver, as a father, as an aunt, as a neighbor, whoever I am sitting beside, I am that child's relational field. And that is so cool. And we're going to make mistakes every day, but that's not what this work is about. It's in repairing. And it's in being able to say to a child, I'm sorry. I didn't do it well. And let's just start again. It's your procedures at home. It's your, routines. It's like, are we intentional as caregivers and parents about, what morning routines are like? How do we set the table for the day? How do we set the table for nighttime? How do we create felt safety in our home environments? I'm going to skip this one because I'm looking at the time. And but I'm going to give you these slides so you could just sit back and enjoy those. This is huge right here. This is Dr. Bruce Perry's research. And this is why behavior management is about me as a mom or a caregiver. We are contagious as human beings. Like I am, emotions are contagious. A steady, grounded, regulated adult can regulate a dysregulated, anxious child. But if I am dysregulated, if I am just really rough, as we say in our house, I'm going to escalate everybody around me. And so a dysregulated adult can never regulate a dysregulated child. And what does this mean in real life? I mean, this is a lot of words. What it means is when I'm parenting and if I'm pissed off, I need to model for my child or my adolescent, you know what? I don't have the words to talk about this. I'm going to go take a walk for a minute or two. I'm going to go grab some water. I'm going to go take some deep breaths. I'm going to, so we have resources that I will be sharing with all of you of in the moment practices that actually are evidence-based and well-researched that can lower the activation of our stress response systems. Kids in stress create in adults their feelings. And if we aren't prepared, we will mirror that behavior. I cannot tell you how many times I have been at 10 years old with my own children, especially Andrew Hugh Desautels, or I've been that way with my own students. The greatest intervention we can give to our students is to do our own work. So on your left is the prefrontal cortex that is turned on, it is activated, it is sending projections all throughout the nervous system. This is a brain and nervous system that's ready to parent, that has cared and resourced itself. Over on the right is a nervous system and a brain that is just overwhelmed. And you can see all of the red is happening in the limbic and in the midbrain and lower brain regions. And Donna's going to talk to you about this. I can't believe she's coming next week because I mean, like we share the same thing. But so we thought the brain was immune to inflammation until several decades ago. And what we understand now is that when there is an overproduction of stress hormones in the nervous system, that creates inflammation, and inflammation in the brain can damage brain tissue. So this is, I mean, like, I wish I had known this, because we tend to punish inflammation in the nervous system, in the brain, because it's an invisible, really, injury. So that's why these resources are so important. And my children love this. My adolescents love this slide. They say, Dr. Lori, take this with you when you share. And I'm sorry if you have a Chihuahua, but that amygdala, when it's firing, just feels like there is a constant growl, attack, you know, and you can't focus, you can't think clearly. You're not able to do that. I had the honor of working with Dr. Stephen Porges in the Polyvagal Institute. And so this looks really like sciencey, but it's not. It's so cool. We would have had this. I'm just going to say, I'll send you, you'll have this resource. I would have had this on our refrigerator at home. This is the polyvagal chart. And in the green is when we're functioning in the prefrontal cortex. The red is when we are mobilizing energy to run from a stress or to fight off a stress, and it's a good thing. We've been talking about fight, flight negatively for so long that it just hit me like in the last year. I'm like, this is a good thing that our nervous system moves into a state of protection when we sense something is dangerous or threatening or unfamiliar. I want to celebrate that with our children. You know, as caregivers, I want to say it's okay that you yelled. You know, it's you know, when we're processing and repairing together, we want to validate feelings and sensations. Now, we're not going to validate behaviors that were inappropriate, but we can process those together and create a new plan. But fight flight is a wonderful thing because our body is trying to run from a stressor or fight off a stressor. And if it cannot, it literally moves into what traditionally is known as freeze. But I want to say tonight, this is more than just freeze. This is a flop and drop. It's a shutdown. We've all been there. We've all been in all of these states, and we move through these every day sometimes. But this is overwhelm. This is where the body just is conserving energy. This is where we feel this state, if we land here too long, if we stay here too long, it feels hopeless. You feel untethered. You feel disconnected from the world around you. You feel disconnected from yourself. And for many of our kids who get stuck down here, this is where maybe they have failing grades. They're not engaged with school. There's a lot of vaping. There may be, and again, I'm generalizing here, but it's where there is a disconnect. It's where high absences just really kind of stuck in that kind of numb, heavy. I mean, you can see the words that we use. So this is what Dan Siegel says, what you can name, you can tame. What is shareable is bearable. To be able to identify where you are in your nervous system is healing. That's why having this in the bathroom, having it in the hallway, having it on your refrigerator is just so important. And we have a student version. And we put some Gen Z language in here. And my middle schoolers helped me. They came up with some of the Gen Z language. So in our classrooms, this would be like the kids could do this on a Google Doc. You could do this. You could have this at home for check-ins. Kids don't have to tell you why they're there. They can just share why they're there. But this is child and adolescent friendly. One of the things that I really wanted to share, and I know I won't get through all my slides tonight, but I put some of the ones at the beginning that I really wanted you to have. This is interesting. So speaking of our nonverbal, so we broadcast our physiological states in our voice and on our faces. Now, words carry little meaning, but if we are smiling below, so if we are smiling in the lower part of the face, that cues danger, and it cues insincerity. And so it's actually associated with biting and aggression. Look at that goofy guy at the top. So I'm not going to tell him anything. Like if he's smiling at me like that, that does not feel for real. But you can see the bottom image. These adults are smiling with their eyes. And when we smile with the upper part of our face, and that's why our nonverbal is so important, that cues safety to children. You know, our kids know when we mean it. They know it. And so it's just interesting to, when you're feeling rough or dysregulated, go try to smile and see what shows up. So this is coming. This is in the new manual. And we have one for children, one for adolescents, and one for adults because it's about us. So this is the adolescent version where kids can really identify what regions of the brain and nervous system they're functioning in, and they can identify some of the emotions and sensations. This you could put up in your own home. It's what's your polyvagal vibe, or what's your vibe? What's your nervous system vibe? And it would be fun for your students or kids to have brains, and they could put magnets on them. Again, just have this around the house. For our little ones, they can share where they are when they come in from school. For the older ones, before they go to bed, it becomes a part of our procedures and routines. So, oh my gosh, it's going so fast. So this is just sharing each of the hierarchy nervous system states and helping our kids to identify where they are as well. Okay, here's another practice. This is for ages 2 to 90. So our nervous system has and speaks its own language, but to become fluent in that language, we have to practice it. And that takes time. So I'm going to share with you right now that the language of the nervous system is sensation. Sensations are physicalized feelings, physical feelings. So think of the difference. So if someone asks me how I'm feeling tonight, I could say, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling peaceful. But see, now my mind, but if I describe how I'm feeling with sensory information, I'm feeling warm. I'm feeling a little edgy. I'm feeling fluttery. I'm feeling scattered. I'm feeling fuzzy. You can hear the difference. And then we have, so this would be great to do for your children and adolescents, is to have a sensation word wall where everybody participates. And you can use images, for many of our neurodivergent children, for many of us who just relate more to images. So how many times have you felt stuck in the mud like these boots? Or how many of us tonight on this call feel fried, like a fried egg, or knotted? So this is, just identifying our sensations. These are our 7th graders. She said she was feeling fuzzy, and she drew it like a staticky TV. To draw, to journal, to doodle, to color, to play with Play-Doh. Those are some of the most co-regulating practices we can give our own children. When you can give line, shape, and color to something that's inside your body and put it in a self-container outside of it, drawing your sensations, asking kids, let's not talk about this now. Like there's been a big conflict, come back to me in a few minutes and give me the lines, give me the colors, give me a sensation so I can better understand how you're experiencing this argument we're having, or how you experience the day, or how you feel about this consequence that we've just given you. Here's tired from a middle school student. and this speaks way more than feelings. Here's another one. She drew, I'm heavy, hot, and trapped. So this is Anne's, our autonomic nervous system. And we have this that we can share with you in a PDF. And this is something that we as adults use. We carry it with us. The kids can share the sensations. Like this was a middle school student who was just so upset. And actually they were getting ready, for like a physical altercation. And after shooting baskets, taking a walk, she was able to describe her ears were burning, her head felt fuzzy, her hands felt hot, and her feet just felt like lightning. They just kept moving. And what we know is that neuroplasticity is our superpower. And neuroplasticity is saying, in a very simplified way, every experience changes our nervous system structurally and functionally. You do not have to be who you were a minute ago. And that's what we tell our kids. You don't have to be who you were, and you get a do-over in every moment. And we share with our upper elementary, middle, and high school students that starting at around 4th or 5th grade is the most significant time. It's the second greatest time of brain and nervous system development. Think about that. Starting at 9 or 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, on up, but especially in the middle and high school years, you will never ever learn as quickly and as efficiently as you do in that time. So we say to our 7th and 8th graders, and like I remember, this is our August conversation, and I will say to them, you tell me so we ask, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years, 10 years? I want to play professional soccer. I want to play football. I want to own my own business. I want to design video games. And then I will ask them, so what do you do every day after school? Like, tell me how do you spend that time? And if you're sleeping, that's what your brain gets good at. If you're playing video games, that's what your brain gets good at. If you're just hanging out and just chilling with friends, that's what you get good at. So whatever you see yourself doing a year from now, 5 years from now, start doing it now, because that's the time of the greatest neuroplasticity. And it's not only true for our skills, but it's true for how we feel. How many of you are worriers? I'm a worrier. And why I'm good at worrying is because I do it all the time. So we get good at what we practice, and we get good at what's patterned repetition. So to break those habits, you got to start, changing it up a little bit, but it takes time. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So I'm going to skip a couple more of these. I want to share with you. These are some of the quick, focused attention practices that we can do at home. We can do at school. We have a superpower that is our breathing. And I think our great-grandmothers told us this a long time ago, is that our breath, taking deep breaths, has a very calming effect. But I want to say to you all that this is fascinating research. Jack Feldman out of USC in the 1930s shared what he called the physiological sigh. And you can see it. It's one of those bullets. It's right here. A physiological sigh is when we take 2 quick inhales and a long extended out breath, and it literally releases carbon dioxide out of the body. If we aren't taking long, deep breaths several times every day, carbon dioxide builds up and it creates agitation and irritation. And our kids aren't breathing. We're not breathing so well. Everybody's edgy right now. I don't care if you go to the gas station, the grocery store. I mean, the way people drive is crazy right now. We're very angry in this country. So taking a couple of deep, long exhales and really intentionally breathing. You can breathe through a straw, because I'll take this out. When you breathe through a straw, you take a deep inhale, and then, so I'm inhaling, And then exhale. And look how long, like I wasn't even done. It slowed down my breath and it extended my breath. Blowing bubbles, humming. I don't know if anyone hums. Any vocalization is very powerful. Singing, chanting, gargling, like sighing, like taking a big long sigh is just so significant. Any type of rhythm, drumming, even if you're just drumming on the table, if we are moving, any type of exercise, art. So just thinking of all these sensory co-regulatory practices, that's where the dysregulation, that's the root of dysregulation. So when we help our own children and adolescents come up with a menu of practices when they're feeling rough and they begin to use those every day, just not when there's a crisis, then they're more accessible when things are really hard. So on my website are these, there are 60 of these, there are so many more. This is just a teeny tiny sample. But these are things that you can do with your own children and adolescents at home. And these are as much for you as they are for your own children and adolescents. And then I'm going to minimize this. Oops. Let me go back to my slides just for 1 second. So I want to go down. I want to share this with you, just a couple of quotes, and then we will finish. If we can see behaviors as meaningful and purposeful, knowing that sometimes there is an accumulation of too much, too fast, and too soon, we can provide that space of safety, a social synapse that simply receives the pain and fear. And then over to the right, I want to read this to you. Our nervous systems are always searching for faces, bodies, and tones that are able to hold a sound. I knew I wouldn't get to this. This happened last night when I was in the West Loop. I want to give you, this has my website. I'm so sorry. revelationsineducation.com, my Twitter, my Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And so sorry, I've got a tickle. Hold on. Please, please connect with me. The website has so many practices that you can download for free. They're as much for parents as they are for educators or therapists or mental health practitioners. And there are lots of menus, and we call these focused attention practices that are, and again, they are just as much for adults as they are for our children and youth. So these are the books that I have written. They're available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. They're on the website. And I was just honored to really have this as our theme tonight, Eyes Are Never Quiet, because it is about the nervous system, which brought me to the next book, Connections Over Compliance, and really taking a deep dive into how we discipline and intentional neuroplasticity. And then this is coming. It's more of a manual, as much for adults as it is for children and youth. And it will hopefully, cross my fingers, be ready at the end of this 2024 school year. So that is all I have, and I'd be happy to answer questions if anybody has any.
Your passion really comes across in the most beautiful way. So much wisdom here. We did host Bruce Perry, I want you to know, in October.
That's
And I love the title of his book, What Happened to You? And we
Yes.
labeled it as a shift from what is wrong with you.
Mhm.
But even Tuesday night, we had a program that also will be on our Glenbard GPS Parent Series YouTube. It was about temper tantrums and meltdowns. And, so much of this was repeated in that program. We
Yeah.
can't possibly regulate others if we are not calm ourselves.
That's right.
Make no mistake that no logical reasoning can take place until that child in the classroom and out of the classroom feels safe and soothed and connected. And you'll be happy to know that Tina Payne Bryson is coming in April. She's, as you know, the co-author with Dan Siegel, who's been with us. So this, I'm so happy about all of this awareness around this. What I thought was especially interesting is, there's so much that we've learned through all of these people about labeling your emotions and modeling that. But I really love the way you want us to also label the sensations, the
Yeah.
body sensations. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, this is what's missing in a lot of the work is, and that's why I brought up when we come into the world at birth, our identity is sensation. And so that's all we know. That's how we know how we feel. That's how we know if we're safe. That's how we know if we are alone. It's through sensation. And so there is, I know, like an ice pack on the back of a neck feels much more releasing and relieving than someone telling me not to worry about it. You know, so I think that's one of the best examples that I can give. If I can feel the sensation of cold or heat or pressure, if we have children, sometimes I'll take hand warmers into the classroom, and in our morning meeting, we will all hold a hand warmer and we'll just hold it and feel that sensation as we're talking about something difficult. And I would have done that as a mom. I would have given Andrew or Sarah or Reagan a hand warmer. And I would have said, let's just sit here for a moment and just kind of take some deep breaths and feel that heat. And that is powerful because we're meeting the kids where they are. And Dr. Perry talks about this. If you're living in that, that brainstem area, in those lower brain regions, in those survival states, you can't process words, logic, consequences, rewards. You can't think about tomorrow. You can't think about an hour from now, but you can feel ice. You can feel the hand warmers. You can feel chewing on a hard pretzel. You can feel that sensation of crunching that brings you to the present moment.
And you want that child to label what it is that they're feeling, not just not I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant.
Well, and it's so fun that you're going to have Tina on because she's actually going to be endorsing the new manual. So she's in the so I just love the connection. I mean, it's just like we are all working beside each other,
Yes.
and yeah, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity. First of all, thank you both. Thank you.
No, it's
Just thank
lovely
you
to have you.
for
I see
having me.
I think Vicky's got a question for you.
Yes.
But and I think I'm coming from a parent's lens, even though I work for the ROE, but social media is just so prevalent, in our children's lives, right? So,
Yeah.
how do we, I guess, how does media, including social media, contribute to or hinder the well-being of adolescents? And most of our adolescents, as you stated, have experienced some type of trauma, right? And how
Oh,
can parents
absolutely.
navigate this? And how can we work within this to help our children?
I'm telling you, like if I had the definitive answer to that, I mean, and Donna will talk about that, but what's so interesting is that the adolescent age, that middle school, high school age is so vulnerable anyway because of nervous system development. So we've got connections being pruned away and the brain is going through these significant changes. So the vulnerability of the nervous system is one factor that really interacts and interfaces with social media trauma. And then you think about our evolutionary biology, and we're all about surviving, right? And so in the adolescent world, your peers become everything. You know, if you're not a part of that in group, if you don't feel that sense of belonging, then that feels so that social rejection and being ostracized, and it means you're not going to survive. Like in evolution, in evolutionary biology, you won't survive if you're a part of the out group. And so that is, you know, it's just that's why it's really almost a double, triple whammy on, you know, this time of fragility of growth in the nervous system.
Yeah, and as a parent navigating that, and that influence is very, very tough because it's so powerful.
It is, and I think one of the greatest things, and you know, that's why I love Pillar 4, this work. We need to teach our kids the science. You know,
Yes.
I'm tired of just talking about, okay, well, we talk about anxiety, we talk about, but let's give them the science. And if we don't know, let's learn it together because that's a touch point. You know, and I like our kids love to know that there's a reason in my nervous system that I have this emotional activator, this emotional trigger. There's a reason that I am my neuroception, which Dr. Porges coined, is at a really high, level. Like I'm just I don't feel safe in this environment because my gut tells me that. So our kids are tracking their nervous system states. They're learning about the regions of the brain, and if they don't know, and if I don't know, we learn it together.
Okay, quick question. I have my high schooler here who's having a meltdown. I know that's not the time. I mean, we have to calm down first. But just very quickly, what's like an elevator speech I can give them about the brain so that they have some of that explanation?
So I'm glad you brought that up, Gilda, because in a meltdown, we're not going to have any language. We're not going to have any processing. Like we don't have the words. So, and the reason I'm glad you brought this up is that getting out in front of the behavior is having that conversation and talking about practices in a neutral time. So in the crisis, we just have to wait it out. You know, we've got to walk it off. We've got to, we got to give it time and space. But then we have the opportunity to really get out in front of that behavior. And we need to be able to say, okay, this is what happened. And, you felt it. So we can process it now but how do if you know that if you feel your heart start to beat, we had a 6th grade student, his name was Chance, and I'll never forget it. And he said to me, Dr. Lori, he said, I mean, he was in 6 physical fights a day. I mean, just fighting everybody. Just if you looked at him funny, if you bumped up against him, I mean, he was just very, very defensive and very protective. And that's what we told him. Your nervous system is just really protecting you. So he began to learn the sensations that he felt right before, in his words, he was ready to pop off or spaz. Those are he goes, Dr. Lori, before I pop off, he goes, I would hear a buzzing in my ears and then I'd hear nothing. He could tell us, and he goes, my cheeks and my hands would get hot. And we said, okay, this is amazing. Like, I can't even, like, this is so cool that you've identified this. Off you go to the gym, because that's what he chose. That was on his menu. So, and it took 8 months. It did not happen overnight. I mean, like, but he began to recognize, and that's, as a parent, as a caregiver, that's what we want. This is, you got to start planting the seeds. And so you're still going to have kids popping off and spazzing, and you're still going to have meltdowns. But how do we get out in front of those and resource ourselves and our children so that, and here's the other thing, we got to practice those resources in neutral moments, or they're not going to be as accessible in a crisis.
So get out ahead of it. Understand that they're going to have to work through that meltdown, if you will, and then in the calm moment, have them get in touch with the sensations that they're feeling, and then what are the coping mechanisms that will work for you next time. Do I have it all right?
Practices. Yeah, practices. I like to call them practices because that feels really gentle. And it feels applicable. You know what I mean? Like we all practice. And a strategy feels to me like you're trying to fix it. So I'm not going to fix a child. Like I want to respect my child's identity. I want to follow their agenda, not mine. I really want to respect where they are in their nervous system. So I'm going to share those practices and I'm going to model those, when I'm feeling pretty rough too.
Yes, yes. So I love the way you talk about the nervous system. You hear regulation, co-regulation. That might not mean that much to people, but you're really asking us to really, it's the nervous system. Be aware of your nervous system and what it's doing and how people will feed off of what your own nervous system is doing,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. We're such creatures of habit and we're social. I mean, we can't survive without each other.
My last question, what is I guess when it comes to those challenging moments, what's the biggest mistake parents make?
Oh, I can answer that definitively because I made that mistake. I want to say to everybody tonight, my biggest regret, but I want to say that I want to frame that in a way of my greatest learning is that I did not take care of my own nervous system when there was conflict in our home.
Okay.
That's it. I've got to find my own centeredness and groundedness and steadiness if I'm going to model and share that with my own children. Yeah.
That's what we have to do.
Mhm.
Okay. And it takes time, as you said, it takes time, but this awareness is really so beneficial. Vicki, I know you want to join me in saying thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Very, very informative, especially as a parent. Thank you. Thank you for your
You're
time.
so welcome. Yeah. Thank you all so much. And I will send the slides that I covered tonight.
Great.
And maybe even a couple that I didn't, because it would be kind of fun to look over those. I just knew I'd run out of time. I really need 6 hours with everybody. So
And we'll put them all on the website. It'll be a past program. You'll see the entire program and you'll see the slideshow. And come back. Donna, thank you for the reinforcement about seeing Donna and seeing Tina to, again, reinforce everything you've taught us tonight. It was wonderful. Loved every minute of it. Good luck tomorrow with the teaching staff.
yeah, I'm excited to be at Glenbard. So anyway, thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
This is where we go hug the kids. So that's what we're going to do.
That's right.